Welcome, fellow wizards, to the Indie Game Lunch Hour. Today we're talking with Ayla Derrick, creative director and founder at Cave Bear Games. And we're talking about idle games and focus tools.
The Indie Game Lunch Hour.
In our live magical podcast, we give listeners the chance to hear stories of breaking into the industry from industry veterans, as well as give them a chance to ask questions at the end of each episode. Ayla is joining us from sunny San Diego. She started Cave Bear Games with a team of capable developers, making an idle game that doubles as a focus tool. Ayla, what are you having for lunch today?
Probably ramen. I generally make ramen for lunch and add a bunch of little fun things in it. What are you having for lunch today, Rick?
No joke, I actually bought some ramen yesterday to have for lunch today.
Amazing.
My fiance, we like to eat shin ramen, and she does this wonderful egg drop, and I also like to have mixed veggies added in, to help robust it and make me not feel bad about eating ramen.
Yeah, hell yeah. You gotta add, my favorite are the rice cakes. I love rice cakes. Putting them in there. So good.
Yeah. All right, so today let's jump right into it. You have been in the gaming industry for how long?
Less than a year. I pivoted over in October of 2023. So
yeah, and so the
really
level
short.
of success that you have is pretty impressive. Like, that's a pretty meteoric rise to.
It is. So I've been told. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride so far. I owe it to the algorithm. Going viral really is very powerful. And hopefully I can keep that going, keep that momentum going.
Yeah, so help our listeners get some insight onto how that happened. What was your life like in the before times? What skills did you develop? And when you decided to break in, how'd you apply them and get started?
Yeah, so I was in education, teaching and working for an education company. It's what I went to school for. So, it was kind of the only choice I had after college. And I'm sure as many of you can relate with, the after college times is very tough and confusing, and went through a lot of stuff during that time. So eventually I hated my job, wasn't really having a great time. And so one day I was speaking with some friends, and it was during the SAG-AFTRA strike, when all the movies were not being written and made and stuff. And I was just chatting with my friends, and I was like, oh man, I hope they don't stop writing games. And then that's kind of when it clicked in my head that, hey, someone has to write games. And then me, as someone with an English degree, can probably do that. Looked it up. Narrative design is a thing. And I was like, that's where I want to go. So I left my job, immediately began my education in game design and narrative design. And that's where I found an amazing community from Game Design Skills, the Funsmith Club. That's where I met Luckman in the chat. And that is where I eventually, when I had my idea for a game, that's where my first team member came from. And it slowly grew into a good core group. And then that's when we posted on LinkedIn, and that's when it went viral. My artist created an amazing logo that still exists today. And that really caught the eye of LinkedIn. And then once that caught their eye, they then read the actual introductory post of our studio. And I guess they liked what I said, which was basically just that we are a studio by and for juniors within the game industry. And because of the whole climate of the industry right now, where juniors aren't really getting jobs because experts and, people who've been in the industry for a while are also not getting jobs, and they're the ones taking the jobs because there are not enough to go around. And so I feel like that really resonated with a lot of people. They're like, yeah, a studio where only juniors get hired. That's like non-existent. They really liked that, and it really hit the algorithm. And now 5 months later, we are nearing 19,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's really, I think, a message that resonates with people, the idea of juniors, because what is a junior except a senior who just needs more experience, right? And so you want to put yourself in situations where you get the experience in order to be able to confidently say, I know how to make games, and here's my list of
Mhm.
things that proves I know my stuff. So I think there's a lot of people who feel gatekept because there's way more applicants than there are jobs available. So
Yeah.
people are desperately seeking that way in. And I liked your note about, wow, I got this job and I hated it and I needed to do something else. I think that's a pretty common sentiment from a lot
Yeah.
of people who get into game dev, where at some point they're on a path and then they're just like, full stop, hold on. I don't like this. I don't like the story of my life for the next 30 years if I continue on this path. I'm changing trains.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like continuing on for that long. I don't know how like the boomer generation does it where they stick with a job for 40 plus years. That is insane to my ADHD brain. Hopefully I do spend the next 40 years at Cave Bear. That would be really sick. But currently we're not making any money, so it's really a passion project. And I'm still trying to break into games. I mean, yeah, I have this studio and it's doing really well, but I still haven't been paid for a game position. So, still actually looking, still a junior technically.
Yeah, you said that you initially got into it for narrative design. Is that
Mhm.
primarily what you stuck with? Are you still mostly a writer on your projects, or have you found other roles that you
No,
tend
I'm
to
the
fulfill?
creative director. I'm the leader, the leadership management kind of position. I have my own narrative designer. That's actually the first team member that joined from Game Design Skills. His name is Alex Valesi. He's my buddy, and yeah, he does the narrative, and I like to help him out with that. I like to brainstorm ideas, but that's really his job. So I am more, again, I hold that vision of the game. I had the original idea, so I have like, I know what I want it to look like in my head. And I make sure to communicate that with uh, my team accurately and properly so that they also understand it and then can advocate on my behalf for the vision in their work. And then I also work with my production manager to make sure that the scope of the game is small enough for our team to handle, and that it's going in the right direction, that the right things are prioritized. And then I make like the leadership decisions, like when should we bring in more people, when should we not bring in more people, what kind of people we should partner with. Like I get out so many people that message me on LinkedIn with different offers, and obviously we have no capital, so I can't actually partner with these people who want money for that. But yeah, all the business decisions I'm in the middle of like setting up the bank account. I just finished that actually, and that took several months, and uh, all that fun stuff about legal business filings and a lot of not as fun things, but it's all for the greater fun of making this game. That I mean, it's so crazy to be able to have this idea of this game in my head, knowing that I physically cannot produce this game on my own, and then having this whole team extremely dedicated to building it for me. It's like I get my own little toy at the end of this for seemingly no reason. And hopefully other people like it too. We'll see. But my team seems to enjoy the idea, at least for now.
Yeah. So that's actually a really powerful skill to have, being able to share a vision with your team and get everybody on board. I'm curious, what is your rhythm of communication like to convey that vision? And then how do you identify where you need to put in a little bit of extra work to make sure that, somebody, if they're missing a point, that you can get everybody on board and properly informed to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different job, right? There's a systems designer, there's a narrative designer, there's an audio. So you have to communicate the vision in a way that each of these respective disciplines can understand the vibe that you're going for and the goals. So while it's really just telling them what the game is and what you want it to look like, but then it's also reviewing their work and being like, hey, I think this has the vision that I want, or this is like not quite making it for one reason A, B, or C, or whatever. But then also we have our studio and game pillars. So the game pillars for Plantasia, our game, is solar punk, idle, cozy, and they're pretty basic pillars, one word pillars. But it makes sure that we all know that those are the priorities. So the idle aspect, we want this game to be running idly without your interaction, right? With that, as it's not entirely needed for the game to continue running. For Solarpunk, that's the overall theme that we want people to feel when they come into the game, is this Solarpunk environment. And then Cozy, we also want it to be, a girly pop game in some ways, and have that cozy element of decoration and vibes. Like, my audio director has really nailed down the music and ambience for the game in that cozy kind of way, but also a little bit Solarpunk. Cutesy, demure gaming. Yeah, exactly. Honestly, really, yeah. We should make a TikTok about that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've put in a lot of work to make sure everybody sees the same North Star that you're heading towards.
Yeah, that was the first goal, is to make sure that everyone understands the game properly. And I think I did a rather good job of it. My team seems to really understand the vision. And like I said, they continue to advocate for that vision on their own after the fact without me. So that's really honestly a blessing that they are able to do that on their own.
Yeah, that is amazing when you have a team that all can share the vision. So that, talking about your game Plantasia, that's a perfect lead in to idle games and focus tools. So do you want to talk about Plantasia and where it fits as an idle game, and how does it double as a focus tool?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard of, the idle games that are really popular in the mobile space. I'm not much of a mobile gamer, but I really enjoy idle games. I think the idea of, playing this game for a couple of minutes and then being able to leave, go on with your life because everyone's super busy and they have things to do, and then being able to come back and the game has continued to run and there's still progress. So I don't have to put in 1 million hours into Elden Ring to be able to get to this goal that I want. I can instead just play when I have time. We're all working professionals in some capacity, so I wanted that kind of feeling. And so Plantasia will do that. I also want to make a new distinction between mobile idle games, which are actually the genre is more accurately described as incremental game, but it's called idle game. So mobile idle games, they want you to tap, they want you to click as much as possible when you're in the game, and they really, if you play a mobile idle game, they really want you to stay in the app as long as possible, despite the fact that it's an idle game and you're supposed to leave and come back. And while when you do leave and you come back, you have gathered more resources and more income and more capital, or whatever the resource is in the game. And that's great. And we definitely want to kind of continue in that kind of aspect. But I want it to be true idle. That's kind of what I've been saying, is PC idle, true idle, where we are not trying to gain your complete undivided attention every second of the day. I want it to be truly idle. So while the game continues to run, it's not going to notify you with loud notification noises, and the music is going to keep going in a chill kind of lo-fi way so that you can continue to work and do your own thing while this game is running. Because it's the format, I'll tell you the format of the game is like Rusty's Retirement. If anyone here has played Rusty's Retirement, the game screen, the actual screen of the game, is a rectangular band at the bottom third of your computer screen. So you have the game running down at the bottom of your screen, and then at the top of your screen, you can continue to work, scroll on LinkedIn, do whatever you got to do in Google Drive, whatever it is that you're doing on your PC. And then when you are truly idle, when your brain is too full and you need a minute, you can come down to Plantasia, water a few plants, decorate a few things, and then come back up, wait for your plants to grow, and then kind of repeat that cycle.
Yeah, I think all of us have that experience of working on our computer and having that thought of just while I'm working, let me bring up this game and just set it on my side monitor. And then 20 minutes later, you're just turned at your side monitor, completely focused on it. So talk about how you have designed this game where it actually is intended to be something that you can step away from. So I know you talked about having it be on the same screen as a tool to facilitate that, but what else have you done to turn it into something where you can truly be in the middle of workflow and then just say okay, I need that that couple minute subconscious processing break, or I'm at a good stopping point and I just need to step away, but then I do need to come back eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that being on the same screen as the work that you're doing, not everyone has two screens. While we're all gamers here, probably a lot of us do have two screens. We also want to market it to people who work from home, people who aren't necessarily hardcore gamers. So it being on the same screen is a big deal for me, because even moving my eyes to another screen will distract me. I have ADHD, like I said. There's a million possibilities on that second screen, even if the game is just open on the bottom of it. So I want you to not even have to really look away from your screen, look away from your work. You can just scoot your eyes down a little bit for a couple of minutes and then come right back up. So really low effort. And then, like I said, the music is kind of a bit of a focus tool. Like for me and my ADHD, I kind of need to be listening to something. But if I have Parks and Rec or The Office up on my TV, then, maybe I'll get sucked into that. Usually it works, though, because I've watched them a million times, right? But if something's playing, like a video or a Twitch stream, that will then distract me at some point. It'll follow the noise. It'll check that box, right, of the noise going in my head so that I can focus. So I usually just end up going to YouTube and typing in Lo-Fi Girl, and I'm playing her live. And there's no words that I have to pay attention to. It just really clicks in my brain. So that is kind of the vibe we want to go for is that Lo-Fi Girl. So that music is intended to help your focus as well. Because it's playing, right? You have the game open, it's playing. Even if you're not clicked into the game and you're in your work mode doing whatever it is you're doing, you can have that going as well. What else? Like I said, the notifications, we aren't going to have notifications that like draw your attention back. Your plants will continue to grow, and when they're fully grown, there won't be a flash, there won't be a jarring noise to draw your attention back. Whenever your plants aren't going to die, there's no lost case here. There's no like negative things. I wanted it to be as chill as possible. So eventually your plants will grow, but that's okay. You can come back whenever you're ready and they'll still be there and you can harvest them and do whatever you want. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, it's definitely that idle game thing, focus more so than it is a focus tool. There are games like Spirit City, which is part of this growing trend of PC idle games. So you have the Spirit City has like this Pomodoro timer, and that's really cool. I don't think it's going to quite work for us. And then again, it's like that notification noise I don't want to kind of do. Some people don't like those kinds of timers. I don't use them, so I wasn't fully invested into adding them in the game. Oh yeah, and there's like someone in the chat said rainfall, and I don't know if that's what they were talking about, but we also have this ambiance where you can have, so there's like music that's playing, and then there's an ambiance level where it's like noises, whether it's rain or just machines whirring or that like white noise. And you as the player will be able to customize all of this. So if you don't like the music, you just want the ambiance, you can turn the music off and turn that ambiance way up and then pick which kind of ambiance you want. Or the other way around. If you don't like the ambiance and you like the music, it's a whole thing. So the customization is a huge point of it as well, both for the cozy aspect and for the focus kind of aspect. I want people to be able to create a space that they really thrive in. Aesthetics is also a thing as well. I just finished building a computer, and so I revamped my whole desk. And, it's very aesthetic and very pleasing, and there's nothing on my desk. I shoved everything that was on my desk into a box that I have yet to go through. Will eventually. But now that my desk is nice and clean and aesthetic, yeah, exactly. Nice and clean and aesthetic, my focus is better. And so I want you to be able to customize this. It's a greenhouse station. It's an orbital green. So it's a spaceship, basically greenhouse room that you have. I want you to be able to customize that so it really, squishes your brain and like does everything right and makes you feel better in the space that you're in if you're, working. So there's like a whole bunch of things, but that's the gist of it.
I really like it. It's kind of giving me Habbo Hotel vibes. Did you ever play Habbo Hotel?
I have not.
It was basically a hotel where you took an elevator to other people's rooms, and you could just customize this space that was like your space. It didn't have the idle game elements to it. It was more like a Sims
gotcha.
room builder. But you could go and visit other people's apartments.
I think I did play this game like way back.
Yeah.
Way back
Like people
when.
would set it up as discos or studies or whatever, and it sounds like this would be fun to have a social component of it where you could have a space and then have people go in. I know, just click the make it multiplayer button and
Yeah.
you're good. Like,
No, I would love to do something like that. That'd be really cool, but that's obviously not within our scope, especially as a junior indie volunteer team. My programmer would just be very upset with me if I was like, "Hey, can we just do multiplayer?" He's already told me so many times that if we wanted to do multiplayer, it would have to be like kind of a day one decision, and we are far past that. So yeah, there's no multiplayer button you can just click on and off. So it is because I thought about the idea. I was like, wow, would it be cool? Because the whole idea is that there's no character in the game. There's no avatar in the game. It's supposed to be literally you at your desk looking out into your workspace, just as you are at your desk at home looking into your online workspace. You're supposed to be looking out onto your greenhouse lab. And so I thought it would be a cool idea to be able to like do little, because you have a computer or a console, you could like chat with other people who are working from home and playing the game at the same time. You could have a little chat room going like you see in those corporate environments, because my education job was corporate. So I'm really leaning into that. That would be cool, but it's not going to happen. But it would be cool.
That has to be a throttled chat, or you'll end up getting distracted by it. It has to be like you can only
that's
make one
also
comment
exactly
every 30
yeah.
minutes or something. Yeah, I love the idea of the ambient music and the instrumental. Like you mentioned, you like listening to the Lo-Fi Girl as like a way to sink into your work, and specifically not having words. I think that's so important because I myself have ADHD, and I find that when I'm going into a workflow, I cannot listen to anything with words. If I listen to a song with words, if I have a TV show on, I can't just ignore the words that are happening. So I'd like to have really melodic music that pushes my thought process forward without giving me words to take over what I'm thinking. It's not.
Yeah, if it's a show I've seen a million times, again, like The Office or Parks and Rec, or sometimes if it's a streamer that I like, it's a VOD or whatever that I've already seen before, those words will generally be fine, but they'll still distract me in some way at some point. So Lo-Fi Girl, when I remember to even pull her up, because my ADHD makes me forget that that's even an option. She's really the best because it has that noise. It clicks. I don't have to pay attention to words. My brain isn't trying to figure out what they're saying. So I really wanted to put that into the game. I thought the music and ambiance is a really important part of focus, and we wanted to hit all those boxes. We want to hit music and aesthetic and gameplay and all of that to make a true like focus environment for you.
Yeah, I think it also depends on what you're working on. Like if I'm working on sprite art or a 3D model, having words is okay. If I'm programming, words is not okay.
I imagine.
Yeah. So that's good. I want to remind the audience that if you have any questions for Ayla, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm sure that like she's talking about a lot of really cool things. ADHD is something that I think a lot of game developers struggle with because ADHD people tend to just enjoy video games because it becomes that non-stop flow of serotonin and dopamine, and that's just what ADHD people love, the constant stimulation. It's wild. So yeah, are there any last things you want to talk about that you're particularly excited about with your game?
So I do want to talk about like this trend of idle games, and as game developers, who I assume all of you are in some way, it's a trend, right? It's a trend that's going on. I think you all know that like trends in games are really what move the money, to places. And so I was that's why when I had this game idea, I was actually like, oh, I should do this. It wasn't just like a passing idea that I had that would be cool. I had this idea and I said, wow, I think this actually would work in the modern market, because while PC idle games are super popular and basic and just kind of widespread, PC idle, like console idle, PC idle doesn't really exist. But now that we see Rusty's retirement and Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions, like it's starting, and those games did really, really well. And so that was like a market that I was like, oh, this is a growing thing. We can actually achieve this if we make the game well. And so that's why we went in this direction. And so maybe think about idle games. You know, there are more women joining the games as a gamer. You know, a lot of those women, I think it's like 50% of gamers are women, and then 80% of, I could be getting the statistics wrong, please don't quote me. 80% of women gamers are solely mobile gamers. And as a woman who does not like mobile games, I want to bring those women to the PC where I know they're at. I know they're working, those corporate girlies. I know they exist. And so I want to bring a type of game that they would love, houseplants, cozy decoration, and also this idle aspect. I want to bring them here and transfer that 80% of women onto the PC, where then they can also find Fields of Mystria and Stardew Valley and all the other good girly games. But this one is a nice kind of palate cleanser and like, what's the word? Moving bridge, I guess, bridge into PC. And so that's like another game. Mobile games have gotten so much better, Wendy says in the chat. I'm sure you're right. It's not for me. It's not for me. It's honestly, it hits my ADHD in a bad way, mobile games, because I'm just like on my phone and I just don't want to do that. But yeah, look at the market. And hey, if you're thinking about a type of game that you want to make right now, if you're in a state where you need a new game idea, maybe think about idle games and joining that trend and bolstering it, adding to that community.
Yeah, the nature of the demographics is really fascinating when you start delving into what the demographics of players actually are. There's obviously that 8 to 15 age range of boys who like combat and action games that are very exciting and stimulating. But as you go through the demographics,
they have plenty of games already.
Yeah. But I was talking with some friends of mine. They run a studio called Boba Studios, and they've done their market research, and they brought up something that I found very wild, was that women, when they get to about the age of 30, start to become much more hardcore gamers than they were in earlier phases of life. Whereas men, by the time they get to 25 to 30, they become less about games, particularly new games. A lot of times they'll play like the same games they've been playing for 20 years. Like they'll just go back and play their old. But it's a really it's cool to figure out those elements of the market that you really want to build the games for. And I think it's great that you've locked onto that, because that's a true market that I don't think has enough developers building games for it.
Yeah, audience is really audience is really important to know and to advertise to. And again, I don't know if we're doing it well. We've done really well attracting people like you, developers, and people in the games industry, as can see by our LinkedIn following. We're struggling a little bit more when it comes to actually having consumers, people who want to play the game itself. But we'll get there. Hopefully we can hit that cozy gamer girl niche on TikTok. Fingers crossed. And Plantasia will be on everyone's PC here in next year.
Yeah. Marketing. It's all about marketing.
I know. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah. This has been wonderful. I would like to jump into the community questions. We've got a pile of them asked in the chat here, and I'm going to go in chronological order. So the first question is from Mary. Mary asks, what are your plans for monetization?
That has been such a conversation with my team. So another thing about incremental games, about mobile idle games, is that monetization is they're really going at it hard. They want you to spend money so much. And they really, again, try to encourage that through the gameplay and pay to win and ads and stuff like that. And so that's another reason why I don't like mobile games. And so coming into Plantasia's development, I said, hey, I don't want microtransactions. I'm not interested. It's just going to be a game that you pay, a handful of dollars for, you have it forever. That's how it works. The old school way of paying for games, not live service or anything like that. I've had some pushback from my team, especially my designer, Tanner. He wants a little bit more of monetization, and I am completely against pay to win in any capacity. So that's not going to be a thing. But also along the journey, I am new to the industry, so I'm still learning. And along the journey, I've learned that some monetization might be necessary. And so I'm still kind of thinking on it. No actual decisions have been made, but we might have some cosmetic, aesthetic microtransactions. We'll see. I really don't want to, but we might have to. And hopefully those, cosmetic transactions are pretty common in the game. I mean, they're widely common in games. And so I don't think it'll be a shock to anyone. But then we're going to be we're probably going to be releasing an art Bible and a soundtrack alongside the release of the game. So people can buy that if they want to support more. All about compromise. We'll see. We haven't fully decided the things we want to monetize yet, but definitely no pay to wins. Nothing like that. Nothing game breaking like that. I am very much not into that kind of stuff. So it's still, answer your question, it's still kind of being developed, but hopefully as little monetization as possible.
I could see there being some, and this could be marketed as a psychological trick, but I know a lot of people have plants that they keep in their offices and their workspace, and they like to name their plants. So having the ability to name your plant, but then should you neglect your plant dies, then you can, for 99 cents, get a resuscitation bottle and bring your plant back to life.
Nope, not in our game. Your plants can't die in Plantasia. They will not die. They will just live on forever, waiting for you to click on them.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, monetization is one of the hardest things, especially when at your heart you're a gamer and you just despise the idea of monetization. But then you realize everybody on your team has bills to pay, and if you don't monetize, then you never quit your day job. So you have to monetize in some capacity. That's exactly
what it is. And we're in a little bit of a privileged position being a volunteer studio where all of my team is under the expectation that no money is going to be made. Any money that is made is a bonus. So because we have that expectation, we're at a little bit of a privilege to not do some more predatory monetization things that a lot of other games are forced to do to pay the bills. And I get that. And that's part of my learning, right? As I was saying, that some monetization might be necessary. So again, we'll see, but hopefully nothing too drastic.
Cool. All right. So let's move on to the next question. We have a question from Monday. He asks, do you consult with any medical experts or reference stats or focus groups to ensure that you're actually getting the focus tool effect?
We haven't had any medical professional experts. That's a good idea, though. I've mostly been drawing on my own experiences with someone with ADHD. As far as focus groups, we are entering our QA phase here very soon. Again, we're still pretty early in development. So we are looking for QA testers and play testers who have, are not neurotypical. I mean, we'll have both, right? Who, neurodivergent and neurotypical, ADHD, autistic, anything kind of like that. Colorblind as well. Again, trying to get all that we can in there. And that'll be a huge kind of information added to us and see if we can kind of meet all of their expectations on what focuses work for them. But then that's also like the customization is they should be able to kind of tailor their experience to what they need. Neurospices. Yeah, exactly. So mostly no is the answer to that question. But hopefully yes in the future.
So I think a lot of the people who are going to be listening to this podcast may actually be your consumer base, the people who spend a lot of time on computers working at their computers, who are also gamers. Yes. So your game dev's key. That's why you resonated. If anybody listening to this podcast wants to join you in your tests and help make your product more effective, how do they do that?
So we're doing closed testing very soon, and we have picked our play testers for this first round. But we will definitely do open testing at some point. So the best way to do that is to follow us on social media, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, but also our Discord. So yeah, please join our Discord. All updates get sent to the Discord. So if you want to eventually do QA testing or play testing for us, then that is where you'd find out when that would happen.
Okay, excellent. This is something I may want to play test at some point. Our next question is going to be asked by Wendy. Wendy, would you like to ask your question?
Wendy.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
A little quiet, but I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's up. It's like at 180% in the settings, but okay. Hi, Ayla. Nice to see you. I just finished my second round of level 1 with IJ, which was amazing and awesome as usual. Built my little Mario clone, Super Mario clone, and it was also amazing and fun. And I hope to add more to it. But now I'm hoping I don't run into the whole Gideon tutorial hell thing, where I just follow tutorials and then that's how I'm building it. So I'm looking for different kinds of games to clone, but that are easy, like mechanics wise, kind of like the Super Mario was just a 2D platformer, and that was easy enough for me to follow being new to Unity and stuff. So just wondering what your tips might be on if you have any like easy games you would suggest.
It's a good question. This is actually the first game project that I'm working on besides a couple of game jams. So I'm really kind of just jumping to the top of the ladder here and doing the absolute most for no reason. Obviously, mobile games are generally pretty simple. So cloning those, I think, is a good way to go. Rusty's Retirement is a relatively simple game, but it might be a little bit more difficult when it comes to coding and such. Other games, I don't know. There's like, again, mobile games are so simple and easy. But yeah, any kind of like short-term game that doesn't have a lot of hours, like play hours in narrative or anything like that. Simple mechanics. Go on Itch. Also, like so many games are posted on Itch all the time, and a lot of them are probably pretty simple because they're listed there for free or for just little projects or games jams, and you can kind of clone those as well. Oh yeah, Cookie Clicker. Victor said that. Cookie Clicker. If everyone remembers Cookie Clicker, I swear, that was it is not the original Idle game, but it is definitely the Idle game back in 2013 that popularized the Idle game mechanics. So do that one if you want to do Idle games. Cookie Clicker is super simple. Yeah, and it was very widely popular.
Great idea. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for your question, Wendy. Our next question is from Emmy and Jay. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. I guess my question would be, there are definitely times I have lost focus in the middle of a project, whether it is me trying to research references for something, or even me just looking up a tutorial, not being able to quite finish it. So my question would be, how do you refocus yourself, or how do you like guide yourself back on the right path?
Good question. I mean, with ADHD, it's really like hit or miss, right? Everyone has their own different things. Some of us are medicated. I have medication. I don't use it. I don't like it, so I don't use it. For me, it's really about the fact that I'm part of a team and they depend on me to get things done. So as like the leader of the whole team, I need to do the things or else the game won't move forward. And then also all of my team will think I'm terrible and the worst. And I don't want that. So their existence motivates me a lot of the time. But then also, I still have like ups and downs. Like I just came out of like a 2-3 week dip of executive dysfunction that was really, really bad. And I got like almost nothing done for like 3 weeks. But again, I got like the things I really needed to get done kind of done. So, you have ADHD, it's a whole thing. But yeah, relying on other people or having other people rely on you is a huge factor for me. Body doubling is also massive. So for me, something that I like to do is I like to talk to people, as you can see. So I tend to have a lot of meetings, not with even just my team, just with like other people on LinkedIn or whatever who just want to chat. And so that gets me up, that gets me dressed, that gets me face washed, hair done, all that fun stuff to get me out of bed. And then on my computer in work mode, I have these few, unrelated meetings, and then I'm in the zone. I'm ready. So that has really helped me a lot, and that's why I like to get a lot of meetings in every day. And I did not have any meetings during that 3-week sludge that I just experienced. So that was a big thing, getting dressed and getting up and ready in the mode for the day and kind of setting that expectation for the day.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on working with ADHD and losing focus as well, because that's something I've dealt with my entire life. I was diagnosed at 8, and so you really have to figure out like how to work with your brain if you're losing focus. And one of the things that I've found, few baseline things, like always make sure that, if you're ADHD in particular, get a lot of exercise. You need to burn that extra energy so you're not overloaded. But not exercise is not for everybody, but it is for a lot of us.
Yeah, I should be exercising. I just don't.
But also eating clean, right? If you eat refined sugar, that frazzles you out too. Like if you need to eat something sweet, eat fruits. Fruits and vegetables are really good, and just generally try to eat whole. But when it comes to your actual project, fully expect that your periods where you lose focus are inevitable. Like don't try to not have them, just plan for them. And so keeping track of your overall project and like where you're at, like what's your overall plan? Where are you at in the progress bar so that when you fall off for 2 or 3 weeks, then you come back and you're just like, oh, you have something to look at to like remind you where you were, and then you can keep going.
Right. That's some nice fruit for thought. Thank you very much, you guys.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Our next question is going to be Wendy again. She has another good question.
Hi, Wendy.
Hey, long time no see. I checked my settings again. Is this any better? Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Just got to go buy a fancy Blue Yeti mic, I guess, or something.
Have to.
Right? Excuse. So I'm trying to find you can't see my air quotes, my vertical, if you will. And I've been looking into the producer role. So it's one reason I think your story is pretty interesting with all that you do. I was wondering what your thoughts are, if you have any tips, like, I'm trying to talk to people, find out, people to follow, to see if this is what I want to do, because my other career, because I haven't been in games yet, is instructional design. So there's a heavy project management component to that. So yeah, I'd love to hear anything you have to say on that.
Yeah, Wendy, I mean, we both come from education. Instructional design definitely has a lot of producer qualities in it. I am not a producer. I have my own producer. Thank God. She's literally a lifesaver. I love her so much. So they're super important. Definitely have a producer if you don't have one. They're, I think, actually like the top department that I think you should have. I think you should have a producer like first. Everyone has a different opinion on who should be in first, but I think it's producer. Yeah, I mean, project management is huge. You need to work with the creative director, whoever the boss is, to understand the scope and the vision of the game. And then you need to keep up with everyone else. And instructional design, you're building those slides and you're building, the course and how it goes and in which ways. And that's a little bit different than producing. I definitely have people. My network is your network. I have done really well with networking, and so I can push you in the directions of producers and other people that anyone else may want. And there's a lot of, and I'm not a producer, right? So I know that the deadlines that it comes with being a teacher is important, and you can kind of like be that teacher role to the team and be like, hey, we need this. Like, how can I help you get there? And determining like when can everyone meet and when can people get together and talk about things and get decisions made and all that fun stuff. So I can't really talk too much on production specifically, but I can absolutely say that producers saved my life. And I love them. And please, producers are just my favorite. So we wouldn't be here today without Alyssa, my producer. And we didn't have a producer for a little bit in the very beginning. And that was rough. And yeah, so she's been really, really great to create a physical view of our game and our pipeline. And again, kind of worked while everyone has the vision of the game of like, hey, this is what the game looks like. Now she has created this vision of how it's going to get done. So.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, even your perspective on that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, I want to add on to that because what Ayla is saying is correct. And if you yourself want to be a producer, it's partially about making sure everybody's on the same page with the production cycle. So what you have to do is figure out how to create the documentation so that people can reference things on their own time. You could explain it, but they have the ability to look at it later. Another huge, huge element of it is people skills. And this is where if you want to get yourself on board with being able to communicate with the team so that you can create meaningful production schedules, you read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Emotional Intelligence, read organizational management books. those kinds of books will teach you how to communicate with human beings in general, and that will facilitate everything. Even when you don't exactly speak the language of the discipline, you can still speak the language of the person. And
communication is actually a pillar of our studio, along with education and passion. I've very thankful that my communication skills are pretty good, pretty high. I like to think. I don't know exactly how that happened, but it did. So I'm grateful for that. But that's a skill that not everyone else has, and it is really, really important. So being open and honest with your team about your capabilities. I have ADHD. I go through issues, and I want my team to be able to come to me and communicate that they are having an off week, and that's okay, and that's fine. But we can work with them as the producer, as the creative director. We can work with you to get what we need to get done, but in a way that benefits you, in a way that gives you grace and gives you space to take care of yourself, because you're the first priority, right? You're the main priority in your life. So yeah, communication is really important. You have to, that shame of, not completing things, or, the embarrassment of doing something wrong. Like, those are valid emotions, and I get it. But when you're a part of a team, you need to be open and honest about everything that's going on and communicate your needs. Because, most companies, if someone's failing, they just get rid of them, right? But for me, I'm very team focused. If someone's not doing well, it's because there's something wrong. Everyone has the capability to do great. So I'm not providing something as the leader, as the team, to the team that they need. So what is it? Let's have a conversation about what you need, what supports you need, how I can help you, and do that so that we can get better, right? And everyone can be productive, and everyone can be mentally healthy, So communication is like number one in just my life in general. So yeah, please figure that out. Get communication skills, and don't be embarrassed to come forward with your issues.
And use my ADHD with those people for good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can juggle a lot.
That's right.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, Ayla, we got one more question. This is from Nick. Nick, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully a quick one. So I immediately wanted to share like a link or something with my friends when you were talking about Plantasia. Is there a best like URL or something to share that maybe has the most updated anything, or just in the future will?
If you want to know about the game itself, I would recommend Instagram. It's still relatively small, but we are doing a little bit better on Instagram, and that is where like actual game stuff will be shown. Whereas our LinkedIn is more about our partner program, which I do want to talk about a little bit here in a minute. Let me try to find the Instagram. I think it's K Bear Games on Instagram, but that's not it. Hold on. But that's where we're going to be showing like our. Where are we going? I can't find it. Someone help me. Thank you. Someone got it. They got it. Thank you so much. I don't actually use Instagram, so I couldn't find it. Sayfire got it in chat. So if you want to know more about the game itself, especially look at the art style, because our artist is literally amazing. I love him so much. So see our art style and look at our Instagram. That's where you can find most about the game itself. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm going to send it to 5 people right now.
Thank you so much. Love that.
Excellent. Thank you for your question, Nick.
If we don't have any more questions, there is one thing a little bit off topic I want to at least let you guys know of. So K Bear Games, obviously we are developing Plantasia. We're an indie studio. We're developing a game, right? But because of our viral success, I've wanted to kind of share the love. And so, one thing led to another. I can tell you the whole story, but we don't have time. We developed the K Bear Games Partner Studio program, where we take other volunteer indie studios like Cave Bear, put them together into a community. We have exactly 50 studios right now as part of the program. And so basically this program brings all of us into a collective for support, questions, experiences. But it also, through our Discord, it also helps those teams find volunteers. We found that when we set up our Discord, we had a lot of people who wanted to volunteer in games. And so that's when I started bringing in these other indie studios to do that. And we have it's still pretty small because I was like the only person managing it up until recently. But I'll put a link in chat where you can kind of learn more about it, the K-Bear Games Partner Program. But yeah, I think it'll be really cool. We seem to be the only group kind of doing anything like this. It's gotten really good public attention so far. We have a lot of ideas. I definitely want to continue with like ethical practices and be able to create resources to share with these studios in the program to create a new version of studios, of game studios that are team first and people forward, unlike a lot of the AAA studios that are laying off thousands of people this year. So take a look at that if you're an indie studio already, and maybe we can talk about it. But okay, any more questions?
If somebody wanted to join, and if they were a solo developer who was interested in being a part of the movement, or how do they know that they have a team that's ready to join as a partner? How would people?
Right now, we only accept teams of at least 2. So if you're a solo developer, I can't help you right now, but please talk to me because we might add something like that. I'm not a solo developer. I don't know how people do that. All the more power to you. I think you should have a team. Have someone to help you out, man. Why are you doing this by yourself? That's crazy. But if you can do it, that's crazy. That's good for you. But yeah, so you have to be at least a team of 2 to join. You have to be fully volunteer, so no one's allowed to actually be paid. And it talks more about it on the website if you go click that link. But yeah, so what was the actual question past solo developers? I forgot it.
Okay, so what the solo question was like, let's say, so obviously the partnership program is for teams, right? People of at least 2. But let's say somebody wanted to come on and be able to join your network to say, oh, there's this team that needs an assist, like they need an artist. I'm
as a volunteer.
Artist. I would like to come in and help.
Yes, right. Okay, so join our Discord. If you join the Discord, you are asked a couple of questions right when you join. And one of those questions is, do you want to volunteer on games? So you click that, it gives you an opportunities role. And then we have an opportunities channel where all of our partner studios, when they have volunteer positions open, they post a job posting. Again, nothing's paid, it's all volunteer. But then you can apply to those. And that's how we help volunteers, people who want to work on a game but can't find a job to be paid for doing that, find a team and actually work on games, make games, and do games. Yeah.
Break the cycle of I need experience to get a job, to get experience to get a job.
That's exactly what we're doing. Let me grab a link really quick because I see some people asking.
Okay. Do you have time for one more question?
I absolutely do. I've got all the time in the world.
All right. After you drop that link, we will ask the final question from Chloe.
Link is dropped. I'm getting the notifications already. Thank you, guys.
All right. So Chloe has a question for you. How do you guys manage goal setting as a team? Like considering neurodivergence and workflow that complements that.
Yeah, and I think what we are doing is actually industry standard. Again, I've not worked in the industry, so I don't actually know. It's just what I've been told. We do an agile Scrum sprint system, right? So our sprints are 1 week long. So every week we come and we talk as a full team about, hey, what did everyone get done this week? We celebrate those accomplishments. We share the new music. We share the new art. We share the new programming fun bits, whatever it is. But then, our producer, we have tasks, right? It's an agile system. So we have tasks for everyone. And everyone knows it's also a volunteer. So they aren't like required certain number of hours. It's however many that they can take on that week. And we let everyone choose their own tasks for the week. I prioritize certain epics, certain projects, and be like, hey, please work on these ones first. But they decide which tasks they want to do that week, how much time they actually want to dedicate to the game this week based on all the other factors of their work and their life and how much time they have. So it's all up to them. It's all up to them how much they do that week. And, if that means that the game slows down a little bit because everyone doesn't have time this week, that's what it is. That's how it works. And maybe if it continues long term, maybe that just means we need another team member. It's not about, I don't think people are pulling their weight. They're pulling exactly the amount of weight that they need to. It's how me as the leader can make sure that everything gets done on our timeline and maybe extend that deadline a little bit. Again, we're in a privileged situation where we're a volunteer team. We don't have any public deadlines, so we can kind of really do what we want. But yeah, it's the autonomy of being able to choose your workload that week that really keeps people, motivated and not overburdened and overworked.
Who on your team owns that agile scrum process, putting everything together?
That's my producer.
Your producer?
Yeah,
Okay.
Alyssa. Mm-hmm.
Where did Alyssa get the background and the experience to do that?
She's a genius. She has I think she went to school for project management. She is like a certified Scrum Master, which is like a really big deal, I think. But this is her first work in games specifically. So she's done work in project management outside of the games industry. But she's also like super young. She's just out of college. I think she's going for her master's right now. So she's just extremely motivated in project management. So yeah, love her to death. And she's doing a great job in games. She's had to learn a lot about how games are produced, and those pipelines and those timelines. So yeah, she's been amazing. She's been absolutely amazing.
How valuable do you think the addition of Scrum to your development flow has been?
Well, I think it's industry standard, right? And that's kind of partially why we're doing this, is to train our juniors who don't have this experience in the industry to get that industry experience, to get those entry-level jobs that require industry experience, right? So we want to follow the industry standard, and Agile Scrum is the industry standard. So we follow that, and it works well. Like I said, the sprint system allows us to have specific weekly goals that we are working towards as a team. And then obviously it allows them as well to choose their own tasks for that week. It shows it's also small enough where the tasks are small enough that you're not overwhelmed with a task that you thought was smaller but is actually bigger. So there's a whole bunch of benefits. But again, mainly the fact that it's industry standard is why we went with it. But also, Alyssa could talk to you about it more. I'm sure it's one of the best kind of organizational practices out there.
That's something that could get its entire own podcast episode of just the project management process.
Where are you? Yeah.
I think that's a big takeaway for especially junior developers who are just used to following tutorials, that when you get on an actual production team, having a standardized project management process is something that you don't really realize how much of a difference it makes until you're actively using it and you have somebody whose whole focus is managing the way that the project gets put together. That becomes something that is a complete game changer, pun intended.
Yeah, I remember one of my partners came to me relatively early on, and they're like, I have a pretty big team of like a dozen or so people, but like I feel like there's just not a lot happening. There's not a lot going on. And I was like, do you have a producer? And he was like, no. And I was like, get a producer today. Like, it's insane you don't have a producer. Who's tracking all this stuff? Who is making sure everything gets done? Like, you can do that as the creative director, but like you got all this other stuff to do, and production is its own full-time job. So if you don't have a producer, get one. Producers are, again, my top. When I think about the next team I'm going to form for the next game and which departments I want to put first, production is number one.
Production is key. We're planning a big jam coming up, and we want to quintuple the number of producers we have.
I wish I had more, actually. I love them.
Yeah. All right, this has been wonderful. I want to ask, as we ask every podcast guest, what is one piece of homework you would give to the audience to, like, anything that they can do in the next week to further their journey in game development? Yeah.
You have a favorite game genre, whatever it is, whether it's indie or idle games like me in some capacity, or MMOs or whatever. Learn about the history. Where did that game actually come from? Like, if you like MMOs, okay, have you ever heard of a MUD before? Do you know what that is? No? Figure it out. Because that's, if you know the history of the game, of the genre that you're learning about, then you know exactly why this game genre was popularized. The history of it, what games you can then go look at that were like instrumental in this timeline of popularity. History is important. Learn from it, right? So that's my homework for you. Choose your genre, whether it's what the game you want to make or the genre that you want to work in the industry, and read the Wikipedia article on it or something.
There's also tons of YouTube documentaries about your
exactly
favorite game. I guarantee
GDC talks, like anything.
Unless you got some super niche program out there like Mega Man Soccer, you're going to find a documentary about it.
Yeah.
Excellent homework. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming and listening to the podcast. Thank you, Ayla, for coming and sharing your wisdom. It was a lot of great insights that you brought.
I'm glad. I was happy to be here. I'm glad I finally got to introduce myself formally to the IGA community. I hope to see you guys around. My DMs are open if it's on Discord or LinkedIn. Those are the kind of the ones I'm on the most. So that's the main place you'll find me. Come chat with me. Do whatever you want. Yeah. Loved being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.